Commander Jack Thompson floated near the main viewport of the International Space Station, his eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars before him. The year was 2045, and humanity had just celebrated its 25th year of continuous presence in space. The soft hum of equipment and occasional beeps from the monitoring systems created a peaceful atmosphere in the station. But peace, as Jack knew too well, often came before something big. "Commander, you might want to take a look at this," called out Lisa, the station's communication specialist. Her voice carried an unusual edge that made Jack push off the viewport and glide smoothly toward her station. The monitor in front of Lisa showed a pattern of signals unlike anything Jack had seen in his 15 years of space service. Instead of the usual radio waves or digital transmissions, these signals pulsed with a strange rhythm, almost like a heartbeat made of light. "How long has this been coming in?" he asked, his thick eyebrows drawing together as he studied the pattern. "About 7 minutes now," Lisa replied, her fingers dancing across the keyboard as she tried to make sense of the data. "And sir, it's getting stronger." Just then, Mark, their science officer, burst into the command module, his tablet computer clutched tightly in his hand. The space telescope just picked up something big. Really big. His face was pale, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. They all rushed to the observation window, and that's when they saw it. At first, it looked like a star being born, a bright point of light that grew larger with each passing second. But as it came closer, they could see its true form. It was a ship, but unlike any human spacecraft. This vessel seemed to be made entirely of crystal, its surface catching and reflecting sunlight in rainbow patterns that danced across the station's walls. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the space station, and shaped like a perfect geometric shape that somehow kept changing as they watched. "My God," Jack whispered, his professional calm cracking just a little. "Get Houston on the line now." But before Lisa could establish contact, the crystal ship stopped moving. It hung in space about a kilometer from the station, and then something incredible happened. The surface of the ship began to pulse with light, creating patterns similar to the signals they had detected earlier. The patterns grew more complex, and suddenly, every screen in the station lit up with the same message: "We come in peace." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Space agencies worldwide went into overdrive. Presidents and prime ministers held emergency meetings, and aboard the space station, Jack and his crew became humanity's first ambassadors to an alien species. The aliens called themselves the Crystalloids, and they were as beautiful as their ship. When they first appeared on the station's video screens, the human crew gasped in wonder. They looked like living crystals, their bodies transparent and flowing with inner light. They moved with grace and spoke through patterns of light that the ship's computers somehow translated into perfect English. "We have watched your species for some time," the crystalloid leader explained, its body shimmering with each word. "Your potential is great, and we wish to welcome you into the galactic community." Jack felt honored to be part of this historic moment. The crystalloids shared stories of other worlds, of civilizations that had reached for the stars and found friendship among them. They spoke of technology beyond human understanding and promised to share their knowledge. As the Earth below them continued its endless spin, humans and aliens began their first diplomatic talks. News channels worldwide broadcast the incredible images of the crystal ship and its inhabitants. People celebrated in the streets, knowing that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. But in all the excitement and joy of first contact, no one noticed something crucial. When the crystalloids showed recordings of other civilizations they had contacted, all those alien races seemed to share one strange characteristic. They all had a faint crystalline sheen to their skin. And by the time anyone would notice this detail, it would almost be too late. 3 weeks after first contact, Dr. Robert Wells sat in his underground lab at the Global Science Center, staring at his microscope with growing horror. On the slide before him, human skin cells slowly transformed into crystalline structures. their organic matter reorganizing into geometric patterns that sparkled under the lab lights. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the test for the fourth time. But the results remained the same. The door to his lab burst open, and his assistant Mary rushed in, clutching a tablet. "Doctor, you need to see this." Her hand shook as she handed him the device. "Reports are coming in from all over the world." The tablet showed news feeds from different countries. In Tokyo, a crowd gathered around a man whose arm had turned completely transparent, like living crystal. In Brazil, an entire family sat in a hospital, their skin slowly becoming translucent. In London, a school had been evacuated after several children began to sparkle in the sunlight. "It's happening everywhere," Mary whispered, "just like the other civilizations." Dr. Wells quickly accessed the alien database the crystalloids had shared with Earth's scientists. He had been studying it for weeks, amazed by the records of 47 different alien species the crystalloids had welcomed into their galactic community. Now, looking at the images with new eyes, he saw what everyone had missed. Every single species in their database was crystalline. The doctor grabbed his secure phone and dialed the emergency number they'd been given for such discoveries. "This is Dr. Wells. Get me the World Security Council. Now." Within hours, the world's top scientists and military leaders gathered in an emergency virtual meeting. Dr. Wells shared his findings, his voice growing more urgent with each slide. "They're not sharing technology with us," he explained. "They're transforming us. The crystallization process spreads through any physical contact with their species, and it's irreversible. Based on the rate of spread and the number of diplomatic meetings already held." He paused, swallowing hard. "We have less than 3 months before the entire human race is converted." General Adams, his face grim on the video screen, spoke up. "Can we stop it?" "Not with any current methods," Dr. Wells replied. "The process rewrites organic matter at the molecular level. And here's the worst part. Those who are fully crystallized seem to lose their independent will. They become part of the crystalloid collective." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. On various screens, world leaders and military commanders argued about possible solutions. Some suggested nuclear options, others proposed immediate isolation of affected areas. But the crystalloids had planned well. They had already established bases in every major city, always under the guise of cultural exchange centers. Their ships hung in orbit over every continent, officially for communication purposes. Reports kept flowing in. The crystallization spread faster in some areas than others, but it was everywhere. Panic began to rise as people realized what was happening. Some tried to hide, others attempted to fight the transformed humans, but nothing seemed to work. "This is how they do it," Dr. Wells explained to the council. "They don't invade with weapons. They simply wait while we transform, helpless to stop it. No species has ever found a way to resist them." The meeting ended with Earth's leaders feeling hopeless. Humanity faced extinction not through war or violence, but through a subtle, beautiful transformation that would erase everything that made them human. As Dr. Wells left the meeting, he couldn't help but wonder. In all those 47 civilizations, had no one found a weakness? Had no one discovered a way to fight back? There had to be something, some simple truth they were all missing. The answer would come soon, but from the most unexpected source imaginable. Dr. Emma Roberts hadn't slept in 3 days. Her lab in the underground bunker of the Global Defense Facility was littered with broken crystal fragments, failed experiment results, and countless empty coffee cups. As the head of the emergency research team, she knew time was running out. "Play the footage again," she ordered, and the wall screen lit up with videos of crystalloid movements. Her tired eyes studied their every motion, looking for something, anything, they might have missed. The aliens moved with impossible grace, their crystalline bodies flowing like liquid glass. In one clip, a military drone had fired at their ship, but energy shields had appeared instantly, protecting them. In another, a desperate civilian had tried to attack one with a baseball bat, only to have the weapon pass through some kind of force field. "Stop," Emma suddenly said, leaning forward. "Go back 3 seconds and play it at quarter speed." The video reversed and played slowly. Just before the baseball bat hit the force field, there was a tiny flash of light around the crystalloid. "Again," she demanded, moving closer to the screen. "And magnify Sector 4. As she watched the slowed footage for the 20th time, something finally clicked. "They're shields," she whispered. "They're not always active. They have to turn them on." Her team gathered around as she explained her theory. "Look at the timing. There's a split-second delay between detecting a threat and activating their defensive shields. They're not invulnerable. They're just incredibly fast at protecting themselves." "But what good does that do us?" asked Tim, her assistant. "Even our fastest weapons get blocked. Their reaction time is incredible." Emma started pacing, her mind racing. What if their entire species evolved this way? What if? She paused, grabbing a crystal sample from a nearby table. What if they're actually incredibly fragile? Under the microscope, the crystal structure confirmed her suspicion. The crystalloids weren't just crystal-shaped. They were actual crystals, as delicate as any found in nature. Their apparent invulnerability came entirely from their defensive technology. "Get me the structural analysis team," she ordered. "I want to know exactly how much force it would take to shatter one of them, if their shields weren't in the way." The results came back within an hour, and they were shocking. Without their force fields, the crystalloids were extremely brittle. A child could break one with bare hands. Their entire civilization had developed around preventing any physical contact or impact. But there was still a problem. No matter how fragile they might be, their shields activated too quickly for any weapon to reach them. The team tested everything: bullets, explosives, energy weapons. The shields blocked them all. "We need something faster than their reaction time," Emma muttered, staring at the data scrolling across her screen. "Something they won't recognize as a threat until it's too late." Just then, her phone buzzed with an urgent message. There had been an incident at Research Facility 7. Someone had managed to destroy a crystalloid, but the details were confused and unclear. "Get me a vehicle," she ordered, already heading for the door. "And get me everything you can about what just happened at 7. As her team scrambled to comply, Emma felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. If someone had found a way to break through those shields, there might still be a chance for humanity. What she would learn at Facility 7 would change everything, and reveal that the key to humanity's survival had literally been in their hands all along. But for now, as she rushed toward the waiting helicopter, Emma didn't know that she was about to discover the most ridiculously simple solution to what had seemed like an impossible problem. Tom Miller was having the worst day of his life. As a maintenance worker at Research Facility 7, he usually spent his days fixing broken pipes and replacing burnt-out lights. But today, everything had gone wrong. First, the facility's power had flickered during a crucial experiment. Then, the backup generators had failed. And now, the containment system for the resident crystalloid ambassador was malfunctioning. "Just stay calm," he told himself, checking the tablet that showed the facility systems. "Follow the emergency procedures." The problem was, no one had written procedures for this situation. The maintenance corridors were supposed to be safe, far from any areas where the crystalloid visitors might go. But as alarms blared overhead, Tom heard something that made his blood run cold: the sound of crystalline movement coming around the corner. He backed up against the wall, his heart pounding. The tablet in his hands showed that the nearest security team was 3 minutes away. He didn't have 3 minutes. The crystalloid appeared suddenly, its transparent body catching the emergency lights and sending rainbow patterns across the walls. It moved toward Tom with that awful fluid grace they all had, reaching out with one crystalline hand. Tom knew what that touch would mean. He'd seen the videos, watched the training materials. One touch, and the crystallization process would begin. Within hours, he'd become like them, another mindless crystal drone in their growing collection. his back pressed against the maintenance panel, tools digging into his skin through his workman's jacket. The crystalloid was only a few feet away now, its faceted face showing no expression. Time seemed to slow down. Tom saw the alien's hand coming closer. He saw the slight shimmer in the air that meant its shields were ready to activate. He saw his own hand rising, moving by pure instinct. And then, without any conscious thought, Tom Miller did something that would change the course of human history. He slapped the crystalloid right across its face. The sound was like a chandelier hitting a tile floor. The alien's head simply exploded into a shower of tiny crystal fragments. Its body followed a split second later, crumbling into a pile of glittering dust on the floor. Tom stood there, hands still raised, mouth open in shock. The security team found him in that exact position 3 minutes later. "What happened?" demanded the team leader, looking at the pile of crystal dust. "Where's the crystalloid?" Tom pointed at the dust, then at his hand, still trying to process what had just occurred. I slapped it." Dr. Emma Roberts arrived 20 minutes later, rushing down the corridor with her research team. They found Tom sitting in a small office, surrounded by security personnel, still staring at his hand in disbelief. "Show me exactly what happened," Emma demanded, setting up high-speed cameras. "Every detail is important." Tom demonstrated the motion, explaining how it had been pure reflex. The research team measured the speed of his hand, analyzed the angle, tested the force. "This is incredible," Emma muttered, looking at the readings. "The average human slap moves faster than their shield activation time. It's so simple, so basic. They never saw it as a threat because no species they've encountered fights this way." As the team celebrated around him, Tom finally found his voice. "You mean I just discovered humanity's secret weapon by accidentally slapping an alien?" Emma grinned, already reaching for her phone to call the Defense Council. "Mr. Miller, you may have just saved the human race. With a slap." Somewhere in the facility, another alarm started ringing. But this time, it wasn't a warning. It was the sound of hope. The conference room at the Global Defense Facility was packed with military leaders, scientists, and government officials from around the world. Dr. Emma Roberts stood at the front, pointing to a slow-motion video of Tom Miller's historic slap. "The average human slap moves at 3.6 meters per second, she explained, as the video showed the precise moment of impact. "But what's truly remarkable is our shoulder joint. Unlike any species the crystalloids have encountered, humans have a unique rotator cuff that allows for this specific movement." On the screen behind her, a diagram showed the human shoulder's ball and socket joint. "Our ability to whip our arms forward in this particular motion is actually unique in the known galaxy. The crystalloid's force fields take approximately 0.3 seconds to activate. A human slap takes 0.2 seconds to complete." General Adams leaned forward in his chair. "Are you telling me that millions of years of evolution gave us the perfect weapon against these aliens? And it's a slap?" "Exactly," Emma replied, unable to hide her smile. "Their entire civilization is built around preventing physical damage. They've developed force fields, energy weapons, and advanced technology. But they've never encountered a species that fights hand-to-hand. The concept is literally alien to them." In the back of the room, Tom Miller shifted uncomfortably as people glanced his way. He'd become something of a celebrity since the incident, known worldwide as the man who slapped an alien. "We've already begun training Special Forces units," reported Colonel James, standing up. "Once our soldiers understood the concept, their success rate against captured crystalloid drones has been nearly perfect. We're calling them the Slap Forces." The room erupted in a mixture of laughter and serious discussion. Someone pulled up footage from the training facilities, showing soldiers practicing their slapping technique against crystal targets. "But we need to move fast," Emma warned, her expression growing serious. "The crystallization process has already affected 12% of the world's population. More importantly, we don't know if the crystalloids will adapt once they understand what's happening." The team had developed special gloves for the soldiers, reinforced to prevent injury while maximizing impact. The design was simple: thick padding on the palm with flexible material allowing for maximum swing speed. "Here's what we know about their weaknesses," Emma continued, changing the display. "Their force fields only work against detected threats. A slap is registered as non-threatening until it's too late. Their crystalline structure is extremely brittle without protection. And most importantly, they have no concept of physical combat in their entire history." Scientists had discovered another advantage. The crystalloids couldn't even comprehend the idea of using their own bodies as weapons. Millions of years of evolution had made them so dependent on technology that the very concept of physical fighting was foreign to them. "We're seeing confusion in their ranks," reported an intelligence officer. "They don't understand how their drones are being destroyed. Their combat protocols have no category for this type of attack." The meeting concluded with the approval of Operation Backhand, humanity's first coordinated counterattack against the crystalloid invasion. Around the world, special forces began their final preparations. As people filed out of the conference room, Tom stayed behind, looking at the training footage still playing on the screen. "I still can't believe it," he said to Emma. "All their advanced technology, all their powers. And they're going to be defeated by something so simple." Emma patted his shoulder. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. And thanks to you, we now know their greatest weakness. They never learned how to take a slap." Across the planet, humanity prepared for what would become known as the strangest battle in Earth's history. Operation Backhand began at dawn. Across the globe, specially trained human forces approached crystalloid centers wearing what looked like ordinary clothes. Their only special equipment was a pair of reinforced gloves and the element of surprise. In New York, Captain Mike Baker led his team toward the crystal spire that had once been the Empire State Building. The structure gleamed in the morning sun, its transformed surface sending rainbow patterns across the street. "Remember," Mike whispered into his comm unit, "they don't expect physical contact. Their sensors are looking for weapons and energy signatures, not hands." The crystalloid guards at the entrance didn't even flinch as the human team approached. Their force fields were ready for guns, bombs, or energy weapons, but not for what was coming. The first slap echoed through the street like a thunderclap. The guard shattered into a million glittering pieces, leaving the other crystalloids frozen in surprise. Before they could process what had happened, the entire human team moved in. Slap! Another guard down. Slap! A crystal commander crumbled to dust. Similar scenes played out worldwide. In Tokyo, London, Moscow, and hundreds of other cities, trained soldiers executed perfectly timed slaps. The crystalloids' advanced technology proved useless against this primitive but effective attack. Inside their command ships hovering above Earth's major cities, the crystalloid leaders struggled to understand what was happening. Their sensors showed no weapon signatures, no energy blasts, no conventional attacks. Just humans moving quickly, their hands creating destruction wherever they touched. Impossible. The crystalloid Supreme Commander transmitted, its crystal body flickering with patterns of confusion. "They're using their own bodies as weapons. How can they even conceive of such barbaric tactics?" In orbit, the massive crystal ships began powering up their weapons. But they had made a crucial mistake. They had already let humans aboard during their cultural exchange programs. On the flagship above New York, Tom Miller, now promoted to Special Operations, led a team through the crystalline corridors. They had memorized the ship's layout during the friendly visits weeks before. "Their shields don't work well in close quarters," Tom reminded his team. "Too many surfaces for the force fields to account for, just like in the maintenance corridor." When they reached the bridge, Tom faced the Supreme Commander. The alien leader tried to activate emergency protocols, but Tom's slap was faster. The mighty leader of the crystalloid empire crumbled into sparkling dust that scattered across the ship's control panel. Around the world, the crystallization process began to reverse. Those who hadn't fully transformed returned to normal, their bodies pushing out the crystal structures like rejecting a virus. The crystalloid connection to their drones was broken. All teams, report in. General Adams called from the command center. New York, clear, came the first response. London, clear. Beijing, clear. Moscow, clear. Tokyo, clear. One by one, cities reported success. The most advanced alien invasion in Earth's history was being defeated by the most basic human action imaginable. In the ruins of the New York Command Center, Dr. Emma Roberts studied the remains of the crystalloid leaders. They never evolved past their fragile physical form because their technology always protected them. She explained to the assembled military leaders. They couldn't imagine a species would develop physical combat because they saw it as primitive. Primitive just saved the world, Tom replied, carefully removing his reinforced gloves. As the sun set on humanity's first victory against an alien invasion, news spread across the planet. Humanity had won not through superior technology, not through greater numbers, but through the simple, unexpected advantage of being able to deliver a solid slap. The age of human supremacy in the galaxy had begun with a bang, or more accurately, with a slap. 5 years after Operation Backhand, the Earth had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The planet's first galactic embassy opened in Geneva, with Tom Miller serving as Earth's chief security advisor. His famous slap was now immortalized in a crystal sculpture at the entrance, a reminder of humanity's unexpected path to the stars. Inside the embassy's main hall, Dr. Emma Roberts led a tour group of alien visitors, their various forms ranging from gaseous clouds to silicon-based creatures. They all kept a respectful distance from the humans, especially their hands. And here we have the historic combat simulator, Emma said, pointing to a popular exhibition. Alien visitors could safely experience a human slap in virtual reality. The line was always long. Is it true, asked a floating green orb through its translator, that humans developed this combat techniques specifically to fight the crystalloids? Emma laughed. Actually, humans have been slapping things for as long as we've had hands. It's just that we were the first species to think of using it in combat. The aliens murmured in amazement. After the crystalloid defeat, Earth had received thousands of diplomatic requests from other civilizations. It turned out that the crystalloids had been the galaxy's bullies for millions of years, and news of their defeat by primitive humans had spread fast. In the embassy's research wing, Captain Mike Baker trained new diplomatic security teams. Remember, he told his students, both human and alien, physical combat isn't just about violence. It's about understanding that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. The crystalloids themselves had retreated to their home system, their empire shattered as quickly as their physical forms. The 47 species they had transformed were slowly returning to their original forms, thanks to treatments developed from studying the reversal process on Earth. In orbit above Earth, the captured crystal ships had been converted into museums. Tourists from across the galaxy came to see the place where a maintenance worker's panicked slap had changed the course of galactic history. Tom walked through one such museum, pausing at his favorite exhibit. His old maintenance uniform and the original reinforced gloves displayed alongside the dust from the first crystalloid he had slapped. "Still hard to believe, isn't it?" said General Adams, now Earth's Defense Commissioner, joining Tom at the display, "that all their advanced technology, all their centuries of conquest, were defeated by something so simple." "The funny thing is," Tom replied, "they're still trying to understand how we thought of it. Their scientists have written papers about human combat innovation, trying to explain how we could possibly conceive of using our bodies as weapons." The general chuckled. "Some things you just can't explain with science." In schools across Earth, children now learned about the Great Slap War in their history classes. The lesson wasn't just about the victory. It was about human ingenuity, about finding unexpected solutions to impossible problems. The textbooks included a famous quote from Dr. Roberts. The crystalloids failed not because they were less advanced, but because they were too advanced. They forgot that sometimes the most primitive solution is the most effective one. As the sun set over the Geneva embassy, Emma finished her tour at the newest exhibition, a real-time map showing all known intelligent species in the galaxy. Earth glowed bright blue at the center, with a special notation, home of the species that slaps. "Will you tell us the story again?" asked a young alien visitor, its tentacles waving excitedly. Emma smiled, looking out at the gathered crowd of interstellar tourists. "Well, it all began on a regular day at Research Facility 7, when a maintenance worker named Tom Miller had what seemed like the worst day of his life. In the distance, a crystal ship sparkled in the evening light. Not a crystalloid vessel, but a human ship built with their salvage technology. Humanity had learned from their defeated enemies, combining advanced alien science with their unique physical capabilities. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere out there, other civilizations were learning a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that wasn't afraid to get physical.